My name is Courtney Coulson, a female to male to female detransitioner, and on this channel we try to figure out what the hell is wrong with me. In this episode, third puberty. What is it? Well, so this video is going to be just a general update to how I've been going detransitioning. I detransitioned back in about June or July. It's kind of hard to say because it was a slow thing. I know for some detransitioners it is very quick. They just go, no, this is not for me, and so they cut everything out. Not a good idea. I think with anything in life, just incrementally do these things. I say, as a person who jumps into things head first, yeah, do as I say, not as I do. So I would say I've probably been detransitioning for about 5 or 6 months, give or take, and still dealing with a lot of changes. But so I stopped taking testosterone and birth control at the same time, and that was about October. Like, I was still taking it a little bit. It was just because I had such a bad reaction to both of them, I was kind of weaning myself off. But when I stopped taking it entirely, for weeks, I suddenly noticed all these dramatic differences. So, I always had my period because I was taking a very low dose of testosterone. I go into more detail about all these things in my other videos, but I, for whatever reason, was just really intolerant to testosterone, and I was always in the female range of testosterone, thankfully. But now I'm still having to shave my face, so I would say I've been living as a woman since about late October, early November, so I've been more aware of any hair on my body, but especially on my face since then. And I don't have to shave every single day. It's probably every second day at this point. But yes, when I stopped testosterone and the birth control, I was just hit by the freight train of third puberty, which apparently no one else has gone through. I've talked to other people in the detransition community. So before transitioning, I was asexual. I didn't really have boobs. I mean, I was probably B cup, maybe. I didn't really need to wear bras. And I sort of looked androgynous. I mean, it's hard to tell, with hair and makeup and all of that. But yeah, I was fairly childlike, boyish. And so when I stopped testosterone, just all of a sudden, I have a libido. I would definitely say I'm a lesbian now, although we'll talk more about my sexuality in a minute. But yeah, all of a sudden, I just got boobs, as you could see. And it's very strange. Never had those before. So that's taken some getting used to. But hey, it's probably getting me some more views, right? And the weirdest one of all, a false pregnancy. I started having, morning sickness, and my boobs were sore, and I was lactating. I had a belly. I looked pregnant. I'm not showing photos of that because that's, yeah, you don't need to see that. Just take my word for it. And I just suddenly got baby crazy. I still really want kids, although that sort of intense maternal impulse has tapered down a little bit. But it was just so strange strange, but maybe also a good thing, because, I was trying to become a woman again, and here I was feeling very feminine, and my body was becoming very feminine, so that definitely helped. My voice has also gotten lighter. I don't have to force my voice to sit up higher, although I've never really tried. I never felt the need to, because I always felt I've spoken a fairly neutral way, gender, androgynous, if you will. Because I know some girls definitely have that sort of upspeak and the vocal fry, and they've got that really feminine way of speaking. So when they become men, they transition to men, they sound like gay men. Whereas for me, I grew up mostly socializing with boys, So I don't think I picked up any of those feminine speech patterns as much. I mean, I definitely have some. It's inevitable, given that I am, in fact, a woman. But yeah, I didn't feel like I really needed to put on a voice, although I would push it down lower, speaking from the diaphragm, so I had a bit more of a masculine sounding voice in terms of pitch and tone and all of that. But now I can feel it's sitting up more in my throat. So overall, I'm very lucky. I don't seem to have had any long-term side effects from my very stupid decision to live as a boy. And I ask myself why every day. And I think I've never really had anyone help me with this psychologically. Not therapists, not doctors, not anyone. It's just the more I am introspective and the more I think about this, I realize, well, there were a lot of issues there that I wasn't aware of and didn't even have the vernacular to describe. That I was always a girly girl, but I had very masculine interests. I had always more male friends than female friends. So once I hit puberty, I think it was the beginning of this social dysphoria. And I think we need to speak more about social dysphoria, because I think that's what a lot of these genderqueer, gender questioning kids are going through. It is really hard to go through female puberty. It is. Maybe I've talked about this before, but boys, when they go through puberty, it's just kind of more of the same. They continue to get bigger and stronger, and they also gain more social power. Whereas women, going from girl to womanhood, it's suddenly, oh, well, once a month you bleed everywhere, and, sometimes that'll leak out through your pants or your skirts. Everybody knows about it. Suddenly boys are treating you differently. You got to deal with bras, you got boobs, you got, you're not as strong as you used to be. All the men are getting physically larger than you. You can't do the same things you used to do. Or society especially expects you to behave in a different way. So I can absolutely understand why there is just this pandemic, this mass hysteria of girls wanting to be boys. And for me, I think that especially became apparent in university, because I don't know why. In high school, I wasn't having too many issues with boys. But in university, a lot of men were trying to date me, and I just saw them as friends, and it just annoyed me that every single time I had to deal with this awkward conversation of, no, I'm not interested in you, no, I'm asexual, I'm autistic, I don't even like being touched, and then they would turn on me. This guy that I thought was my friend was sort of like, oh, well, I hate autism, or the only thing keeping us apart is your asexuality, or, you just haven't found the right guy, you haven't given it a chance, or that, all that crap. So it makes you feel like there's something wrong with you, and you're uncomfortable just being yourself. And I was never, I guess I was kind of a shy kid. I was just introverted and weird and hated people, so I don't know if that's shyness, it's just being an introverted, misanthropic, belligerent asshole. But I definitely just allowed people to push me around because I just didn't care or didn't really understand how that would affect me. I've talked about emotional analgesia in my other video, emotional analgesia, and yeah, I can't feel emotional pain, so I don't have that immediate reaction of, well, I don't like what you said about me, or I feel uncomfortable in this situation, just sort of go, that was a weird thing to say, I guess. Nowadays, I definitely have less tolerance for idiots and bullshit, so hey, transitioning was good for something. For 5 years, I lived as a man, and it was really great. I'm not gonna deny it. I took like a freaking hour to get ready just for this video. I'm not going anywhere, but it's just for you guys, I guess. I don't know how long this video is gonna remain in existence. Could be like thousands, millions of years. So gotta be all coordinated. But yeah, it took me an hour to get ready. Whereas as a man, just put some clothes on, brush your hair, that's about it. And the way people treated me was a lot better. I've been thinking about this a lot lately, where since detransitioning, all I hear day in and day out is, "Oh, you're so beautiful. Oh, I love your eyes. Oh, you're amazing. Oh, your tits are massive. Oh, here's a dick pic." It's just, fuck off. It's not that I have a problem with my appearance. I've never have. I'm quite grateful. I think it's, 2 eyes, a nose, a mouth. What more do you want? But when you just hear that same one thing over and over and over again, and to the point that people interrupt me, I'm talking, and they'll just start complimenting my appearance. It's like I'm in the goddamn Twilight Zone, where, oh, great, I have this one social perk to the detriment of everything else. But now, as an adult woman, I at least know, look, I can use this to my advantage. I can have the confidence to be selective and say, well, no, I don't want any attention from you. So, yeah, I that's the thing they don't teach girls. They don't talk about with girls is you absolutely have power. And if anything, I've learned, hanging out with cisgender men who thought I was also a man, men are kind of intimidated by women. So I think, yeah, we can absolutely use our femininity to our advantage, but society kind of makes us feel like we can't. Or if we do, we are, a slut or whatever, You can't win, basically. I can't wait for my hair to grow out properly. I do wear wigs sometimes when I go out, and I did wear a wig in one of these videos because I dyed my hair, and there was just stains everywhere, so I had to cover that up. But I think it's probably best for this channel, so that you can watch my hair growing. You see the process and how quickly it grows back, just as a way of documenting my detransition. And, it's gone to that point where I don't hate it so much, and I didn't even have to do anything with this. I got out of the shower, and it's sitting properly for once. Got that Halle Berry look going on, so it's not so bad. I found that every movie I watch, or everything I watch, I always bring it back to my own detransition and how I feel about that. And I recently watched Dress to Kill, the Brian De Palma movie from 1980. And I won't spoil it. It's really good. I love it. I won't spoil anything because it's very good. Definitely watch it. I do love it. But there is a transgender character in there. And it's surprisingly nuanced for a film from 1980. I know transgender people think it's offensive or whatever, it's triggering, yeah. But it's not. It really is quite a reasonable exploration. I don't even care if the character is a hero or a villain, as long as their story, their experience is handled in a sympathetic way, a realistic way. And in the case of this particular character, they had a male and a female identity. They wanted to have surgery, they wanted to have the vaginoplasty, and there was this conflict between the male and female side of this character. So the female side would get jealous or be enraged if the male side was aroused, as they said, aroused in a masculine way. So the female persona would take over and kill the object of the male persona's desire. And the female persona, or the male persona, was resisting the sex change operation. They didn't want that to happen. And I absolutely related to that in a weird way because, so I don't really know what I have. Is it depersonalization disorder? Or is it actually dissociative identity disorder? I don't know. Who can say? I am seeing a therapist. I have yet to be impressed, but I know these things take time. But I've learned that some people with DID can have co-consciousnesses. So they don't black out. Their identities are co-conscious. They are aware of each other. So Connor, who isn't around as much anymore, I can feel us switching between, and I feel totally different. I have totally different goals and desires and interests, and it's almost like waking up from a dream. So the other person, so say Connor wakes up, and so Courtney's desires to have children or do any of the things that I want, those feel like just these ridiculous thoughts. Can't believe I haven't told anyone about them, that sort of thing. And then when I go back to Courtney, I think, fuck, that was... God, now everyone knows I thought I was a robot. God, that's so embarrassing. But it's the truth, both of them, so kind of have to talk about them. But relating back to Dress to Kill, it was only after I had seen a surgeon and was discussing top surgery that Courtney started to come back. I had gone basically as far as I could go transitioning. I was almost at that point of surgery, and then suddenly, no, this isn't right for me. And I'm so glad that's when it happened. But I almost feel like, wow, is it kind of this split personality thing where the Courtney identity disappeared for so long, and she only reawoke after that point. She was already starting to merge before I stopped taking testosterone. So it wasn't just the hormones, although that probably played a part. I also watched John Carpenter's Christine, based on the Stephen King book of the same name. It's great, I love it. Christine, total babe, love her. And, sorry Kit, you're also great, I love you, but, So, that I could really relate to, if we're using the car, Christine, as this metaphor for transitioning, where I was very much like Arnie, good kid, always did as I was told, never had any real conflicts with my family. And then all of a sudden I rebel and I say, I'm a boy now and you can't stop me and screw you guys, and just absolutely unshakable belief and commitment to this idea. And it was, bit by bit, slowly ruining my life. My life took a real nosedive after transitioning. I don't think it caused my chronic fatigue, but it definitely made it a lot worse. So when I first transitioned, I had a great couple of years there. So let's see, 5 years as a man, 3 years chronic fatigue. I still have it now. It's gotten a lot better, though, since I've stopped taking testosterone. But this stuff was like poison. I had all sorts of issues. And it was also ruining my relationships. I didn't talk to my family for about a year or two. I almost lost all my friends. I don't talk to a lot of my friends from that part of my life, and I think transitioning and all the radical personality changes I went through in these past few years has a lot to do with that. And yeah, testosterone was my Christine, very much so. And I've put that thing in a garbage compactor, and we're fine now. I hope we're not going back to that. I've learned my lesson. I think there are still times where I do feel this conflict between my personalities, but overall it's amazing to me that just all of a sudden in the past about a month, my physical health suddenly got really good. I've actually almost finished sewing a costume. This is my Kira Nerys costume, because, I got the short hair, so thought I would make use of it. Cosplay as Kira from Deep Space Nine. And I almost finished making that in 2 weeks, or maybe a week, actually. So let's say it's probably going to take me about 14 hours total. And that's about as fast as I used to be at top speed. When I was sick, I could barely sew at all. I think I made one costume a year, if that. But I was still compelled to do it because I guess costumes are kind of my life. And the only reason I haven't finished that is because I've had so many other things going on. I've just had all my friends and my family want to go out more often. So between, going to restaurants and op shops and beaches and all of that, and living a life for once, oh my god, I've never felt more alive. I actually don't have as much time for sewing because I actually feel too good to just focus on that. I've been writing more, doing my podcast is a lot easier, just everything is so much easier. So I think mentally, I also felt a lot better. I can go out, I can socialize, I am not in constant pain, I and not bored. And not that I'm particularly prone to boredom, I am a very patient person. It doesn't surprise me that a lot of my mental health was impacted by my physical health. And I did everything I could. I did try to get as much sun exposure, social interaction, all of that, as much as I could, but when you're sick, you know? And for 3 years, that's a trial for anybody. But I have not had any of these episodes where I just want to escape my body and tear my skin off, and I just sort of freak out like that. It's been maybe a couple of months. I never thought I'd be at this point. I thought this dysphoria, this transhuman dysphoria, if you will, was forever. But no, I feel a lot more connected to my body. And I do think sexuality has a part of that. So we'll get to we'll leave that to the end of the video. The only time I felt a little conflicted was I've been watching WandaVision lately. Love WandaVision, and they sort of encapsulate my two identities. You have the robot father and the human mother, and they sort of represented my two desires, being this robot that cares for this family, but also wanting to be a woman and wanting to have babies and all of that. So there was that strange sense of, oh, I can't be both. You kind of have to make a choice. You can't be both people. You can't live both lives. And fortunately, biology or psychology, neurology, whatever you want to call it, has made that decision for me. I feel quite comfortable as I am. You know, I was never worried about, you know, immortality. I think is the thing people first jump to is, oh, well, you know, robots are indestructible and all. It really wasn't that. It wasn't a sense of being powerless or anything. But the discomfort with just the grossness of being a biological human being, yeah, doesn't really irritate me as much anymore. And I have to wonder if that increased disgust has something to do with being asexual. So there was a study, I'll put it in the footnotes, I'll see if I can find it, but it was discovered that a person's capacity for disgust greatly decreased when they were aroused. And being autistic and asexual, I think there was this huge divorce between what I am and what I thought I should be, I guess. And now, goddamn, as I told you, hit by the puberty freight train, libido is off the charts. I'm still a virgin because I think I'm too crazy for any sort of relationship. I still need to work myself out, although I think I'm getting better. But speaking of working myself out, so I do have a vibrator. Yes, I don't mind telling the whole world about that. He's purple, and his name is Cyclonus. Hey, Transformers fans, you know the one I mean. But yeah, I was so disconnected from my body. I didn't even know how it worked or what it could do, and I think there is this process of self-love and also self-love that I am going through and learning more about my body and who I am and my own femininity and what I'm into and all of that. So I'm not saying there's anything wrong with being asexual, but for me personally, I feel like I was missing out on this huge element of being an adult and those sort of, all those little social dynamics at play and all these things that I just wasn't aware of, even after my autism symptoms went away. And I should do a video specifically focusing on autism. I'll get around to it. It's just, I'm only doing one video a month, guys. I think being asexual kind of deprived me of certain elements of adulthood and maturity. But that's just my opinion. I'm not saying that it goes for every asexual person. And I know some asexual people have had sex, so they have, you know, at least tried it. They get it, but they don't get it. The only problem is, yeah, I developed a sex drive during a very strange time in my life where I'm obsessed with robots and machines and cars, and Guys, I think I'm a Mechaophiles. I mean, I'm attracted to human women, thank God, you know. I love me some Harley Quinn. She's my girl. Been thinking about her a lot lately, actually. But, yeah, I do also think about cars. I think about Christine. I don't think about Kit. You know, Kit is like this... He's the Mr. Rogers of vehicles. You wouldn't... No, but car. K-A-R-R. Maybe. And I even wrote erotic fan fiction about car. What is wrong with me? Just... I'm telling the whole internet. Why? I don't... Anyway. No, it is all instructive, I think. We're exploring every facet of my identity. And, yeah. I went to a car show recently. It was this little meet-up thing where all these classic cars and very expensive cars, like McLarens, Lamborghinis, they're all there. And, yeah, so I was white-knuckling my handbag as I was walking around, just going, oh yes, oh, I like that one. Just, like, being so gross. I don't get it. I mean, is it that because I've integrated my Courtney and Connor identities, do we want to fuck each other? Is that what is happening here? You know, that I am attracted to robots. I never was before. Always saw myself as a robot, but yeah, suddenly just watching Transformers in a different way, and Knight Rider, and Christine, and everything else. But there is just something inherently erotic about cars to me. And I guess I kind of designed that way, but I took it a little too far. I don't want to do anything to them. I think most Mechaophiles, well, most fetishists are men, for whatever reason. But most Mechaophiles are men, and so it's all, you know, going in the tailpipe, if you know what I mean. No, actually, that's not a metaphor, that's quite literal. And I didn't hear a lot about female Mechaophiles. I know one woman, there was this article in some trashy magazine about how she married her four-wheel drive. No idea what she does. I think mostly it's just masturbating in or around or on the car. And, yeah, I was just waiting for my mom to park her car, straighten up her car. Not attracted to her car, by the way. And I was just sitting on the hood of the car next to her. Just like, oh, this is smooth and shiny and warm and, what is wrong with me? So, I see that this isn't normal, but I cannot help myself. Thankfully, it's not the only thing I'm into, you know, because I do want to have a normal family and all of that, depending on what you define as normal, if I am gay, so there is that. But that's quite normal now. I think we're accepting same-sex relationships. It's Adam and Eve, not Adam and Lightning McQueen. So I was always very into women and either mechs, you know, big robots, or cars. Definitely always loved that. And thankfully there's no shortage on the internet of girls and cars together, so. Also there's this great anime from the 90s called Brave Police J. Decker. Each one of those robots has a human girlfriend. It's great, it's adorable, I love it. What the hell happened? I can only say that it is just a kind of conditioning while I was developing a libido for the first time. It's not like I planned it, but yeah, here we are. There's a lot about sexuality, and especially female sexuality, that we aren't properly taught about, and I went to a Catholic school, but I actually think the sex ed was fine. The only problem is it focused only on heterosexual relationships, and specifically the mechanics of making a baby, procreation. It really wasn't so much focusing on masturbation and pleasure, or, you know, homosexuality, lesbianism, anything in between. None of that. So there was a lot of confusion there where I didn't have a sex drive at all. So it wasn't really an issue for me, and I remember sitting in class at that point. Other kids in my class, they were 11 or 12, they were starting to get interested, they were asking questions. There was me doing this incredibly complex mosaic pattern thing on the front of the pamphlet that we were given. Just all these little jagged shapes. That's all I remember going, I don't need any of this shit, you know, sex, relationship, dumb. Well, it's not like I regret that now, actually. I wish I kept that, though. That was pretty pretty amazing, that mosaic thing. But what we're not taught about is that masturbation is kind of necessary as a kind of practice. It's use it or lose it. It's kind of like a muscle. You're building up a connection there and knowing how you work and all of that. And like in my case, I realized I've got a high libido, but it takes me a long time to get going. So maybe that'll change, maybe that'll improve over time, but it feels like this is something I do need practice at. Which is strange, you'd think, well, you don't need to practice other things. Well, actually, walking, eating, talking, we had to practice all of those things. So yeah, you gotta practice every aspect of your biological reality. These things don't just happen. I mean, we even had to practice looking at things. When you're first born, you actually see things upside down, and your brain figures out, oh, whoops, other way around, doing it wrong, okay. And it figures out depth and color and all of that. So, yeah, I don't think there's any shame in admitting that every aspect of your life, including sex and masturbation, is something you gotta practice. It doesn't just happen. I didn't realize any of that until now, and actually, I have been delving into old books about sex, so in a weird roundabout way. So I have an Instagram called The Greatest Regeneration, and it's going through the 80s in chronological order. So right now I'm filming this in January 2021, so on my blog page, whatever, it's January 1981, and I'm looking at all the movies and the music and everything that came out in that month. And because I suddenly have this libido and interest in sex, I was very curious to go, well, how have things changed in terms of that? And it is fascinating. So, first of all, 80s girls are way hotter. I don't like this fucking fake Kim Kardashian face. Why? Young women, women under the age of 35 are getting all these fillers. They got the duck lips. It's hideous. They were probably very attractive before they started to look like a rubber duck. First of all, very interesting looking at old Playboy magazines. Secondly, saw Shannon Tweed in there. Shannon Tweed, married to Gene Simmons. I used to watch that Family Jewels reality show with my family when I was a kid. So that was a bit confusing, but she looked pretty great. I'm not gonna lie. But yeah, just seeing hair and tan lines, and I mean those fake titties, but real faces mostly. You could see some had some work done, but yeah, mostly much more natural. I was also reading the works of Betty Dodson, who was, she only passed away last year, I think, but during the 70s and 80s, she was quite instrumental in this kind of sex revolution, especially about masturbation. I think her first book was called Sex for One. And it is just amazing to see how our attitudes about sex have become so much more liberal. But at the same time, I think we have forgotten some of those fundamentals. We've kind of gone the opposite way, where we're watching porn. I'm watching porn for the first time in my life. That's new. Honestly, I don't need the visuals so much. I actually do prefer either reading or writing my own erotica. So there is that. I mean, the biggest problem for me is that my kind of erotica is not physically possible in the real world, so thank God for Rule 34 and all the weebs and stuff. Back on track. So I think the problem with all of this insane pornography and what do you call it, like digital art, I get all. Some of it's animated, some of it's hand-drawn, some of it's, there's the furry stuff and the vor stuff and the inflations, stuff that could never possibly happen in the real world. And I have to wonder if those fetishes were even a thing before the internet, or if they were, how prevalent they were. We're getting to this point now of this sexual wonderland where anything is possible, and I think we're kind of running before we can walk. I think a lot of teens and young adults, their expectations are way up here when they haven't really learned how their own bodies work. So, you damn kids and your phones, I think there is an element of truth to that in regards to not only sexuality but gender, that we're just getting too complicated. We're getting in over our heads. Things used to... That's why maybe I am rather enchanted by the 1980s right now, and I'm watching a lot of Knight Rider and Miami Vice. I'm also watching Twin Peaks, but that's early 90s. Because there is this simplicity to it. And yeah, I know it wasn't a perfect time. Reagan, Thatcher, AIDS, homophobia. But I can retreat to the oasis of 1980s television, and it's just so nice and simple. I still spend a lot of time on the internet, but I think I don't engage so much socially. I don't use Facebook. Definitely don't use Twitter. Oh my god. I go on Tumblr. I need to look at Transformers art. And then, yeah, it's mostly just Instagram, because I like just sharing visual things. We can look at art and fashion. It's nice. You don't have to get into politics and all of that. So I think, in that way, Instagram's probably one of the better platforms. So I really do think a big part of everything that I've suffered, there's just confusion. And hearing too many opinions. I have to wonder if I lived, in Perth in the 1980s, would that have been better? I think I wouldn't have been exposed to all these radical ideas and people shouting from the left and right and telling me to believe every which thing, and being this impressionable autistic kid. It obviously had an effect, even though consciously I wasn't aware of it. It's that thing of, a fish doesn't know what water is. A fish doesn't know what wet feels like, because it has nothing to compare that to. And I think that's exactly what I have experienced until now. I think these past few years have been a process of waking up. You know, it all started when I got sick with chronic fatigue, and then I discovered the carnivore diet, and I realized every single thing that we had been told about diet, health, the environment, agriculture, livestock, all of it wrong, absolutely wrong. Like, not even 1% of it was even right. And I woke up, and I realized, keto was probably the first thing. Everyone does keto now, but yeah, just realizing how much misinformation was out there. And I sort of stood outside of the narrative. And then realized more and more about myself, and stood further and further outside of this conventional narrative of society. And now at this stage where I'm formally autistic, carnivore, formally asexual, formally transgender, I have no biases left. I don't regret anything that I've gone through. I mean, there's a little bit going, got rid of all these clothes. I've alienated all these people. I had to go and pay $100 to get my name legally changed back, and I still need to change my gender back. Can't even get my my learner's permit until I figured all that out. Yeah, I am obsessed with cars, as you probably know. Kind of always was interested. I remember as a little kid, I was kind of excited about the fact that, my birthday is at the beginning of January, meaning I turn 18 first, meaning can potentially be the first person in my class to drive. How cool is that? But, I've been sick for the better part of 10 years, dealt with homelessness, disability, everything, so fell way behind. I actually, was learning to drive, had gone for a test, failed, and that was kind of the end of it. And now, I'm seriously looking at getting an old Trans Am that I can fix up myself. I'm doing a mechanics course. I am 100% into cars. I was really into Top Gear as a kid as well. And I think I was into the aesthetics, but it was just like a cinematic appreciation of, that show is great, the music, the music of that show actually influenced my taste in music forever, I think. Music, cinematography, gorgeous, but it wasn't a sexual attraction. Now, watching the Grand Tour, feeling some things. God, there's this scene from Transformers. I'll put that scene. This scene from Transformers, The Last Night. It's a shit movie, but this 15 seconds. Beautiful. That sound. Yeah, there's a little bit of a regret about having to go through all the effort of undoing everything, but as far as I know, I haven't done any permanent damage. It's kind of hard to know if I am still fertile. I mean, menstruation is normal. Everything seems to be working fine down there. So it's hard to say. I mean, some perfectly normal, healthy women have trouble conceiving. So there is that. But yeah, it's just a shame that I turned out to be a lesbian and a mechanophile. No interest in men at all whatsoever. Like, I've been trying. I've been looking at guys going, nah. Ugh. No. Oh, no. And I think maybe a big part of that is growing up with brothers, having a lot of male friends, and then living in share houses with men who think I was also a man. And it's just, just leaving their fleshlights everywhere, pubic hair all over the floor, just burping, farting, not even cleaning up after themselves. You can hear everything that they're doing in their rooms. It's just, I don't want none of that. But I don't know if that is... No one knows how sexuality works. So, is it conditioning, nature, nurture? Who can say? The whole mechanophile thing, it's manageable right now. I mean, I can't get arrested for sitting on someone else's car when they're not around, right? It's only illegal if you get caught, right? It really does feel like I am on the mend, mentally and physically, so... Yeah, I mean, I'm feeling pretty good. And I think that's making a lot of my issues a lot easier. And also make it a lot easier to solve other problems, like changing my name back, and just even basic things like grocery shopping and everything. Just everything is so much easier. And I've always been a very creative, productive person, so now I can do all that stuff. Like yesterday, I was just writing scripts for this, for 2 other podcasts. I built a little model engine. I didn't watch TV at all. I was reading books. I was writing some fan fiction, actually. But yeah, just non-stop, very active all day. And I even took a nap, and I still feel productive. Detransitioning has had some social difficulties in terms of... Well, I remember the first day I went out, so it was October 31st, but that's my uncle's birthday, so we went to a pub to celebrate, and I was dressed like this, and all I heard all night long was, oh, you're so beautiful, oh, you're so amazing, oh, you're so gorgeous, oh, stunning, blah, 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 and no one really spoke to me that night. And that was really bizarre, because I had caught up with my relatives maybe a couple of weeks prior. And we were having actual in-depth conversations, politics, philosophy, all of that. I was being recognized for my intellectual side rather than just the physical. But that's gone. That's gone now. I've gone back to just being what you see. And no one seems to really care about what else is going on underneath. And a lot of people in the comments section of my videos, probably like 90% of them, have to make some comment about my appearance. And it sounds terrible. Like, oh, God, yeah, what a terrible problem. People tell you you're beautiful too often. But it does become maddening in the sense that you start to feel like you kind of have imposter syndrome, as if, well, is that all I'm good for? There's a scene in the Swan Princess I keep thinking about where it's like, oh, you're beautiful. And... is there anything else you love me for?
What? You're all I ever wanted. You're beautiful.
Thank you. But what else?
What else?
Is beauty all that matters to you? Derek? What else?
What else is there?
Yeah, it kind of makes you worry. Every connection you have is purely based on people finding you pleasing to look at, and nothing else. They're not really engaging with you as a person. So there is this very... imposter syndrome is the only thing I could call it. I don't really know what else to call it, because I haven't heard it discussed that often. But yeah, you feel... It's depersonalization, it's dehumanization, and that's definitely a big factor in why I didn't feel like I was a part of this body, because I would go, well, no, I'm the person who has an interest in robotics and mechanics and history and science and and fashion and all of that. You know, this is not something I chose. You know, I like to make myself look presentable. I dress to depress. No, I want to look presentable. I want to look respectable. You know, I understand as a person with a history in fashion and costume design that clothes maketh the man or woman, and I am conveying something to you, and I realize that there is power in my appearance, but I would also like every other aspect of my personality to be acknowledged. So I think that's everything that's been happening in the past few months, so let's say October onwards during my detransition. And I really feel like I need to make these videos so that no one else has to go through what I have gone through. I hope there are people out there who are thinking of detransitioning or thinking of detransitioning, and hopefully I can kind of guide them, because all my life I've never had anyone to guide me with my unique emotional experience with autism, with my transhuman dysphoria, my depersonalization or dissociative identity disorder, whatever the hell it is, my Mechaophilia. Every aspect of my life I've basically had to forge my own path, do my own research, and hope for the best. And really, it is just a miracle that I haven't done anything worse to myself. You know, I could have gone all the way through with transitioning, or I wanted to get like full body robot tattoos, like seams, and I could have done that to myself. Oh my god, you know, I was really close to doing that. There was all sorts of things that I just narrowly missed, and ultimately I do count myself as one of the lucky ones, and I am horrified at the things that are done to these gender non-conforming kids before they can really consent. You know, put on puberty blockers, put on hormones, put through surgery before they've even orgasmed for the first time. That's just so tragic to me. So that's why I really, really want to get this message out here. And if I can help just one person, hey, that's good enough for me. So if you're still here, would like to let you know that my next video, depending on how many questions I get, my next video will be a Q&A. So leave as many questions as you like down below, and I'll sort through them, and yeah, I'll get on those. Next month, maybe? We shall see. Alright, see you, Space Cowboy.